Our mission today is, it's a really practical one, and honestly, it can have a profound impact. We are diving deep, all focused on how to instantly inject more polish, more authority, and, well, more confidence into your spoken English.
Exactly. And this isn't just, a grammar lesson. We're not here to just correct common errors. This is about optimizing perception.
Optimizing perception. I like
With
that.
everything, we're exploring these, let's call them linguistic shortcuts that professionals use to sound decisive, prepared, and authoritative. So whether you're leading a virtual meeting, maybe you're pitching an idea to a new client, or even just, navigating daily office emails and calls, the difference between sounding tentative and sounding commanding, it often comes down to just a handful of specific word choices.
That distinction right there, tentative versus commanding, that is exactly what we're tackling today. Our goal is to give you, the listener, a toolkit. A set of 8 strategies that are so practical you can start using them tomorrow morning. These are strategies to help you bypass those common linguistic habits that, well, they just signal self-doubt. They can instantly boost your confidence and this is the crucial part, change how other people perceive your competence.
Because perception is the entire game in professional settings, isn't it? We spend so much time focusing on the substance of what we say, on the data, on the ideas.
Of course.
But if the delivery is weak, if it's cluttered with filler words or passive phrasing or all these little disclaimers, the substance is automatically downgraded in the listener's mind.
It's like you're putting this great idea in a really flimsy package.
Exactly. Clarity and precision, they aren't just stylistic flourishes. They are perceived as proxies for mental efficiency and, frankly, expertise.
Absolutely. And, to your point about delivery, I think every single one of us has had that moment where we've unintentionally sabotaged our own credibility. I was reviewing the source material, and it brought back this memory for me.
Oh.
I was supposed to run this high-stakes meeting, very senior external stakeholders. I was nervous. And I walked into the conference room and just said, all right, folks, what's happening?
Whew.
The silence was immediate. The shift in body language around the table made it so clear. I had set a tone that was just way too casual for the gravity of the discussion. I spent the next 10 minutes trying to claw back that credibility.
And that's a perfect example of what the sources call cognitive dissonance for the listener. They're expecting a leader, but the language they receive is that of a casual peer. And that momentary confusion can undermine your authority for the rest of that entire interaction.
Right.
So our focus today is making sure that your linguistic frame actually matches your professional ambition. We're going to move from those early moments of, let's call it establishing entry, through to mastering delivery, and then finally maintaining rapport.
It's a complete professional persona, built brick by linguistic brick. So we're going to break down these 8 strategies, and we're going to focus heavily on the underlying linguistic mechanisms that make these changes so effective. And we'll be introducing some intermediate vocabulary throughout, terms you can incorporate right away for that polished sound.
And just a reminder, for those who really appreciate the technical side, the sources provided a free PDF guide. It's designed for you, the learner. It's got key takeaways, comprehension questions, grammar exercises. It's the perfect way to reinforce the vocabulary and the habits we're going to discuss today.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're starting at the very beginning, right? Setting the tone, focusing on those immediate first impressions, and then immediately clearing the clutter out of our sentences.
Strategy number 1, it's the absolute foundation, using proper greetings and formal addressing. This is, hands down, the simplest, most immediate way to signal professionalism and respect. It literally dictates the temperature of the entire conversation that follows.
It's funny. I think we sometimes forget how much heavy lifting a greeting really does, especially now in a digital or a remote world where we miss so many of those nonverbal cues. If you jump into a professional meeting, virtual or in person, and you open with something really casual and sort of clipped, like, hey, or what's up, or that one I hear more and more, that slightly abrupt howdy,
Right.
you are forcing the listener to immediately downgrade the formality level of the entire interaction. You've set the bar low from word 1.
Precisely. And in formal settings, that shift is just non-negotiable. You have to replace those casualisms with good morning, good afternoon, or a simple hello, how are you today?
And notice that last one is still professional, right?
Yeah.
Hello, how are you today? It includes a formal acknowledgement of the person's status and state. It's not just a single abbreviated word.
Exactly. These greetings communicate that you respect the setting and, critically, you respect the other person's time and their position.
Okay, so that's the greeting itself. But then we get into the subtlety of formal addressing. The sources were very clear on this, using titles and last names. Good morning, Mr. Smith, or hello, Monsieur Sharma. That should be the default professional posture.
It should be, unless you have an existing relationship or, and this is key, the person explicitly invites you to use their first name.
Right. Please call me John.
This is such a crucial area for nuance, especially in global English. While many modern corporate environments, especially in, say, U.S. tech sectors, have really flattened their organizational structures where first names are the norm.
Everyone's on a first-name basis.
Right, but defaulting to formality is a safety net. It's always the safer bet. If you start too casually, you risk offending someone or just seeming unaware of the protocol. But if you start formally, the recipient can always invite you to relax the language, and that's a much, much smoother social process.
That's where the challenge comes in, though.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our listeners work in environments, say, a highly agile, collaborative startup culture, where using titles might actually feel stiff. It might even feel, as one of the critiques suggested, kind of archaic. So how do we advise the listener to navigate that specific context?
That requires situational awareness, which is in itself a huge part of being polished. If the company culture is overtly anti-hierarchy, it's reflected in everyone from the CEO down using first names and wearing jeans, then yes, strict formality with titles might indeed feel out of place. However, even in those contexts, we maintain linguistic formality. So instead of a casual, hey, John, you'd use John, good morning, thanks for joining.
Ah, I see. So you drop the title, but you keep the full respectful greeting. The formality's in the structure, not necessarily the title itself.
Exactly. And when in doubt, especially with a new external client or a senior leader you've never met, always, always use the title until you're given explicit permission otherwise. It just shows immediate professional respect, and that respect translates directly into perceived confidence.
Okay, so if strategy 1 sets the professional tone, strategy 2 immediately strips away the noise. Let's talk about the power of conciseness, this idea that less is more.
This is where we dive into some technical linguistic cleanup. It's a common misconception. Many professionals believe that using big, complex language, what we might call verbosity, makes them sound more intellectual.
Right, like you're trying to prove how smart you are by using complicated sentences.
And in reality, it often does the exact opposite. It makes your speech sluggish, difficult to parse, and it can even signal a lack of clarity in your own thinking. The most confident speakers, the most effective leaders, they are masters of efficiency. They don't waste words.
I think the key principle here is that you have to respect the listener's cognitive load. If you make them work too hard to just extract your main idea, their attention is going to wander, and your authority diminishes with every extra word.
Absolutely. And when we talk about wordiness, we are often talking about things like prepositional clutter and the overuse of nominalizations.
Okay, nominalizations. Break that down for us.
Sure. It's when a verb or an adjective is turned into a noun. It often results in this verbose, almost academic-sounding prose. So for instance, instead of just saying, we decided, people will say, we made a decision.
Ah, I hear that all the time. We made a decision.
Yeah.
It adds extra words, but it adds zero extra meaning.
Zero. It just slows things down. Let's break down the specific examples from the source material because they perfectly illustrate how we unintentionally inject all this clutter into our speech.
Okay, let's do it.
So the first example is a classic case of that prepositional clutter I mentioned. In the event that it rains, we will postpone the meeting. It's structurally heavy, it's slow, it's bureaucratic.
And the polished solution is just so simple. If it rains, we will postpone the meeting. We've cut in the event that, which is 4 unnecessary words that function purely as, like you said, bureaucratic preamble. The simplified sentence is just so much clearer, faster, and requires zero effort to understand.
Okay, the second example. This one demonstrates that misuse of formal phrasing to sound important, which often just results in ambiguity. For the purpose of improving our customer service, we are launching a new training program.
You could just streamline that entire opening phrase. The clean, crisp version is, to improve our customer service, we are launching a new training program.
Yes, you move directly from the action verb to improve to the objective. It's concise, and because it's concise, it sounds more actionable, more purposeful.
The difference in perception there is huge. The first version, it sounds like the beginning of some long, boring internal memo that somebody was forced to write.
Right, and the second one sounds like a leader communicating a direct intention. It's forward-moving.
And what about the third common culprit? I know this one. Due to the fact that she was late, the meeting started without her. That phrase, due to the fact that it's the professional equivalent of running on the spot before you actually start moving.
It is. It's a linguistic run-up. And the simplification is obvious, but it's so essential. Because she was late, the meeting started without her. Just notice the immediate increase in forward momentum. When you are concise, you transmit competence, it shows you know exactly what you want to say, and you don't need a complex structure to get there. This respect for economy of language is just fundamental to sounding polished.
So we've tidied up our sentence structure. Now let's transition from clearing the clutter in our sentences to tackling the clutter that creeps in when we're thinking aloud. These are the internal habits that signal uncertainty. This moves us to strategy 3, eliminating filler words and what linguists call side particles.
This is the unconscious killer of confidence. It really is. Filler words like, or, like, you know, in that softer, more pervasive one, kind of, they act as linguistic placeholders. They're crutches our brain uses when it's buffering, when it's searching for the next piece of information or the optimal word.
And they're so deeply habitual, right? Many speakers are completely oblivious to how often they use them. The source material mentioned that common shock people feel when they hear a recording of their own speech and they realize, oh my God, I say like every 3 seconds, or they constantly preface serious comments with kind of.
That lack of self-awareness is the first hurdle. It has to be. Once you recognize the pattern, then you can begin the highly rewarding process of replacing the filler. Just look at the immediate erosion of authority when a filler is used to soften an opinion. Compare this. I kind of think this new budget approach might work, you know, maybe if we look at it broadly.
Versus the assertive replacement. I believe this new budget approach will work. The first sentence hedges every single point. It's like the speaker is asking for permission to even have an idea. The second one projects conviction and professional certainty. It's night and day.
And now let's address those pesky side particles. These are words like basically, technically, and actually. Now, they aren't the classic ums or uhs, but they are equally detrimental to a polished sound.
Okay, explain that. Why are side particles like basically so detrimental? On the surface, they seem like harmless ways to generalize or transition into a point.
They're verbal generalizations. When you start a point with basically, you're essentially telling the listener that you are simplifying a complex reality. And this can signal one of two things, neither of them good. Either you believe the audience is too unsophisticated to handle the detail.
Which can sound condescending.
It can. Or, and this is more damaging, it signals that you haven't fully mastered the subject matter yourself, and so you're only capable of providing a surface-level overview. A polished expert should be able to deliver complexity clearly without resorting to the generalization that basically implies.
That's a fascinating insight. So it subtly introduces doubt about the depth of your own knowledge. So instead of basically we need to finish the final report by Friday, which suggests, I guess, a generalization or maybe even some wiggle room.
The professional version is simply, we need to finish the final report by Friday. You remove the modifier and the statement becomes direct, authoritative, and non-negotiable.
So, okay, we acknowledge these habits are hard to break. I mean, they're deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
How does the source material suggest we effectively train ourselves to eliminate them, especially the constant use of, or like?
This is where we have to emphasize the pause trick. It's the essential, actionable technique from the sources. If you feel yourself searching for a word, or if you catch yourself right at that moment you're about to say a filler word, you must not allow the sound to escape. Instead, you pause.
That sounds simple, but I can imagine it requires some serious discipline in the moment. What does that pause signal to the person listening?
It signals measured, thoughtful consideration. A short silence, even just a second or two, makes you sound composed, confident, and far more authoritative than filling that gap with an unnecessary sound like,
So how do you practice that?
To train this, you have to engage in self-monitoring. We suggest recording yourself. Do it in low-stakes professional interactions, or even just during practice sessions where you're talking through a presentation. And you have to mark every single instance of a filler. Once you hear it, the next step is forced replacement. Every time you are tempted to say, you must impose a deliberate 1-second silence. This is habit replacement. You're forcing your brain to recognize the silence as the appropriate, powerful behavior rather than the filler.
That's a great application point. The intentional silence shows respect for your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Now let's logically follow the elimination of filler words with the elimination of the emotional clutter that weakens our statements. Strategy 5, removing unnecessary disclaimers.
Yes. This speaks directly to self-perception and, frankly, to combating imposter syndrome through language. Disclaimers are those phrases people use to apologize for having an idea before they even present it. They're linguistic shields.
Phrases like, this might sound silly, but... Or my personal pet peeve. You've probably already thought of this, but... You are preemptively validating the listener's right to just dismiss you out of hand.
The impact is instant and it's negative. The moment you start an idea with a phrase that weakens it, you give the listener explicit permission to treat it as non-essential. You are unconsciously apologizing for taking up conversational space, or for having an opinion that might deviate from the group norm.
And if you truly believe in the validity of your contribution, you have to own the idea entirely. We need to replace those weakening phrases with direct, assertive calls to action or, declarative statements.
Let's take this common example of tentative phrasing. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but maybe we could try this new client outreach strategy.
Oof, that is 4 layers of hedging right there. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but maybe it's just weak.
It is. The professional version removes the apology entirely and focuses on the recommendation. I suggest we try this new client outreach strategy. Simple. You are presenting a proposal, not a timid question mark for approval.
And what about that very common self-deprecating phrase used during Q&A sessions? This may be a dumb question, but...
We need to just excise that from our vocabulary entirely. There are no dumb questions when seeking clarity. Instead, use a confident professional framing that shows you're genuinely engaged. Can you clarify this point for me?
Right. You're simply seeking information, which is a sign of intelligence and engagement, not a sign of weakness. Removing these linguistic habits makes you sound certain of yourself, which automatically compels others to take your input more seriously. Your internal valuation of your idea has to be reflected in your spoken language.
And by eliminating the negative, the fillers and the disclaimers, we create space for the positive. This leads us perfectly into strategy 4, which is all about building that linguistic strength, choosing strong, assertive words.
And we intentionally structured the deep dive this way, right? Eliminating the weakness from strategies 3 and 5 first, so that now we can really focus on building strength with strategy 4. This is where we get into the specific vocabulary changes that signal certainty and decisiveness. It's the difference between hearing a speaker who is passively reacting to their world and one who is actively shaping it.
This is what we call the confidence pivot. We're actively replacing weak, passive, or hedging language with terminology that demonstrates clarity, certainty, and agency. And it's so important to stress, this is not about being aggressive.
Yeah.
It's about choosing language that is clear and definitive, language that reflects the fact that you have done the necessary research and you've arrived at a strong, well-reasoned conclusion.
Okay, so let's start with how we frame our opinion. Instead of that distal hedge, which just leaves the door wide open for immediate opposition, I think this is a good idea.
We want to shift the verb from the fleeting mental process of thinking to the conviction of believing. You should use, I believe this is a great idea. The word believe carries more weight. It signals that your idea is supported by analysis or data, moving it beyond just a mere personal preference.
Okay, that's a powerful one. Now let's tackle the critical distinction between passive and active voice, especially when talking about professional achievement. This is fundamental to career advancement and perception. So instead of saying, I was given an opportunity to lead the project,
you must frame your actions actively. I seized the opportunity to lead the project.
Seized. Much stronger.
The first phrase, in the passive voice, makes you sound like a fortunate recipient. It suggests the success just sort of happened to you. The second phrase, using that strong assertive verb seized, makes it clear that you took control, you demonstrated initiative, and you leveraged the moment. Linguistically, you are claiming ownership and credit for your success, which is the root of perceived professional competence.
That is such a fundamental change in narrative. You shift from being a spectator of your own career to being the agent of it.
Precisely.
What about decisiveness? When you're presenting a new plan or a new strategy, so many people soften the approach with modal verbs like, maybe we could try this approach.
Right. Those modal verbs might, could, maybe. They signal negotiation before the idea is even fully out of your mouth. Instead, you have to use commanding language that invites collaboration, but within a clear framework. Say, let's move forward with this approach.
That is so much more decisive. It suggests the work has been done, the decision has been made, and now we are entering the execution phase. It's a call to action.
Exactly.
Now, I often hear professionals, even senior ones, undermining themselves during a presentation wrap-up by asking that one question. Does that make sense?
No, that's a big one. That phrase places the responsibility for clarity entirely on your own shoulders. It implies you're doubting your own explanation. A confident, polished speaker puts the onus on the audience to engage.
So what's the alternative?
You say, "Let me know if you have any questions." This invites dialogue, but it frames you as the authority, ready to address their inquiries rather than apologizing for your own potential confusion.
And finally, let's eliminate that simple phrase that just screams a lack of certainty. I hope this helps.
Hope is the language of wishing for an outcome. Confidence is the language of projecting a prepared outcome. You have to replace hope with certainty.
So instead you say,
"I'm confident this will help." These aren't just minor adjustments. These lexical shifts instantly make you sound more professional, persuasive, and polished because they convey a deep certainty in your own capabilities and in the quality of your work.
so okay, we've successfully established the professional entry, we've cleaned up our linguistic bad habits, and we've adopted assertive language. Now let's move into section 4. This is about navigating sustained professional interactions. So how we handle feedback, questions, and that all-important closing.
Strategy 6 focuses on giving constructive feedback. This is perhaps one of the most high-stakes forms of professional communication. It involves sensitivity, it involves growth, and it really involves the entire organizational culture. Feedback is crucial, but poor delivery can be catastrophic.
Right, it's a real tightrope walk, isn't it? You're trying to avoid two extremes. You don't want to be too harsh, which just demoralizes the recipient and shuts them down. But you also can't be too vague because that prevents any meaningful improvement. They don't have actionable steps. Tone and structure are everything here.
The guiding principle we must follow is focusing on solutions and future improvement, not on criticism of past failures. We have to shift the focus from what was wrong to what can be improved. So instead of the blunt, critical phrase, "Your initial proposal isn't good," which is purely judgmental and just a closed door,
We immediately shift to a solution-oriented phrase that invites refinement. Something like, "I think this could be improved by." This changes the dynamic from a performance attack to a collaborative suggestion for next steps. It's about building, not tearing down.
Similarly, you have to avoid personalizing the error or assigning blame with phrases like, "You did this wrong." That focuses entirely on the individual's failure and puts them on the defensive.
Instead, you should try framing it as an objective enhancement. I have a suggestion that might make this even better. That implies that the existing work is already a strong starting point, and your feedback is simply the next step in its evolution toward excellence.
And this is where we really emphasize the encouragement first method that was highlighted in the sources. You should always start with a positive buffer before you deliver the critique. We use these linguistic softeners, often modal verbs or positive affirmations, to open the dialogue gently.
Can you elaborate on the structure of that specific method? How do we actually layer in the critique without it feeling like we're undoing the positive buffer we just offered?
Certainly. A really good structure to follow is 3 parts. 1, acknowledgement of value. 2, a bridge. And 3, specific, actionable critique.
Okay.
So for instance, I really appreciate how clearly you structured the first 2 sections of this report. That's your acknowledgement. Then the bridge. However, one way we can make it even stronger is by, and then the specific action. Adding more granular data to support the claims and the conclusion. Notice how that bridge, one way we can make it even stronger, prepares the recipient for the critique without negating the initial praise.
That opening positive remark is so key. It confirms that you value their contribution and that the critique is aimed at maximizing their success, which is, it's far more likely to be accepted and acted upon than just direct criticism. It also shows a pretty sophisticated level of communication skill on your part.
It does, and Strategy 7 builds directly on this interactive professional skill. Asking professional questions. Unstructured, vague questions suggest you haven't been listening effectively, or, worse, that you haven't properly analyzed the information being presented. The way you frame your inquiry dramatically affects how you are perceived.
So if we hear something confusing or challenging, we need to avoid that abrupt, casual reaction. So instead of blurting out, "Ugh, I don't get it,"
We use formal framing and appropriate deference. Something like, "Excuse me, may I ask a clarifying question regarding the projection model?" This demonstrates that you respect the setting and the speaker's time, and if you need repetition, avoid the demanding, "Can you explain that again?"
Right, which can sound a bit impatient. Instead, you'd use elevated, respectful language like, "I was wondering if you could clarify the parameters of the delivery schedule." That asks for a refinement rather than just a simple repetition.
Yeah.
It suggests you caught the main point, but you need a specific detail elaborated upon.
And when you're seeking greater detail, we have to replace the abrupt, "What do you mean?" That can sound almost accusatory or just lazy. Instead, we use language that shows you are tracking the conversation, but you just need the next layer of information. Could you elaborate on the constraints you mentioned regarding the budget?
You know, when you ask a well-structured, polished question like that, it really does reflect active intellectual engagement and preparation. It shows the listener that you're not just sitting back passively. You're actively synthesizing the information, you're identifying potential gaps, and you're seeking to fill them in a very structured way.
Exactly. This reinforces your status as an engaged, confident professional. And it's so important to remember that communication is a two-way street. The quality of your questions is every bit as important as the quality of your statements.
That brings us to our final key strategy for today. Strategy 8, closing conversations professionally. As we said at the very start, how you end matters just as much as how you start. We have to avoid what the sources call the abruptness trap.
Yes, the abruptness trap. It refers to ending an interaction too suddenly, like just saying, "Okay, gotta go, bye." This can appear rushed, ungrateful, or sometimes even rude, especially in cross-cultural professional settings. And it can immediately undo all the positive impression you've built with the first 7 strategies.
So we're aiming for a polished closure that leaves a lingering positive impression. And this involves, it seems, 2 key components: appreciative language and absolute clarity on next steps.
That's right. On the appreciative language front, instead of a hurried sign-off, take that extra 5 seconds to verbalize gratitude. Use phrases that confirm the professional nature of the exchange. "Thank you for your time and for sharing those valuable insights."
Or a phrase that acknowledges the structure of the meeting. "I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this strategic challenge with you." These small statements really do elevate the interaction from a simple transaction to a valued professional exchange.
And the second critical component is just non-negotiable in professional closings. Establishing clear next steps. We have to avoid vague, uncertain language. It undermines the entire point of strategy 4, which was about being assertive. So you don't use soft phrases like, "I'll follow up with you soon."
What does soon even mean? It's totally ambiguous.
Exactly. You must replace that with a definitive commitment and a timeline. "I'll send you the finalized report by Friday at 3 p.m. This shows reliability, it shows professional execution, and it removes all ambiguity for the other person.
And finally, don't forget to maintain the bridge for future professional dialogue. So instead of a casual, talk later.
You use a phrase that maintains the professional structure. Please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions or require additional data. This confirms your availability and your professionalism, ensuring that positive final impression. This entire sequence of closing gratitude, clarity, and invitation is what some sources call linguistic hedging, but in a positive way. You're managing future expectations politely and professionally.
Wow, that was a truly exhaustive deep dive into 8 strategies that can really move the needle on professional polish. We've covered establishing the foundation with formal greetings, removing linguistic clutter through conciseness, eliminating self-sabotaging habits like filler words and disclaimers, adopting strong, assertive language, structuring constructive feedback, framing professional questions, and finally executing those polished closings.
And by focusing on the why, the linguistic and the psychological impact of these changes, we've naturally integrated some of that intermediate level terminology. Expanding your vocabulary and understanding the difference between passive and active construction is really key. It allows you to select that precise, assertive word we discussed rather than just defaulting to the first and often most tentative word that comes to mind. That deliberate choice is what separates the casual speaker from the polished professional.
And for those of you who want to transition these insights from theory into actual muscle memory, we strongly recommend going back to the source material and utilizing that free PDF guide. It contains all the key takeaways, plus those crucial vocabulary and grammar exercises. It's what allows you to continually practice and reinforce these tips in your own speech patterns.
It's a journey of habit replacement, not just a list of quick fixes. The more consistent you are consciously replacing an with a pause or an "I think" with an "I believe," the more natural and automatic these polished behaviors will become. So keep practicing, keep analyzing your speech, and keep improving.
Absolutely. Now, to leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that builds on this whole concept of assertive language and intentional word choice. If using strong phrasing really does make a speaker sound more confident and authoritative, consider this. In your professional life tomorrow, Identify that one specific passive phrase or that one unnecessary disclaimer that you use habitually. Just one. And commit to replacing that single element with a strong, assertive choice just one time. Focus on that single, intentional change. It is those smallest, most consistent tweaks that ultimately yield the biggest impact on your perceived confidence.
Excellent advice. Intentional language equals professional power.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.